Projectiles. FPS games are tricky. If you spawn a projectile at a player's gun barrel and make it go straight out, it is very unlikely to go anywhere near where the player's crosshair is aiming. The issue is completely separate from why you're bad at FPS games though. How do we solve this? Much like your friends, let's draw an imaginary line from the player's crosshair outwards, and when they fire, store the point where it intersects with the world. Then we spawn a projectile at the player's gun barrel and move it towards that intersection point. Turns out this works pretty well, and it's what a lot of games like Half-Life do. It has some downsides though. When the target is close to the player, it won't always have very realistic behavior, and it makes firing from cover very risky. Just because your crosshair is above the cover doesn't mean your gun is, which can cause your projectiles to hit the wall in front of you, even though that wasn't your target and that's not where your crosshair was. If you want realism, this is actually a very good solution, but for some games it can be a little bit annoying. If you do want perfect accuracy, then you might want to do what Quake does. Instead of bothering to make it look like the projectile is coming from your weapon, just have it come from the middle of your screen. Get the direction the camera is facing, spawn the projectile, and make it move that direction. This doesn't look super realistic, but most players won't really notice or really care, and it makes aiming super easy. I did this solution for the Wizard FPS game I'm working on because anything not realistic can just be explained away with magic anyways. I'm using Godot for my game, and I also noticed sometimes when firing projectiles, they would go a little bit into the ground before the collision would detect. This varies by game engine, but here's my bad drawing of how far a projectile might move every frame. If I add a wall, you can see there really isn't a frame where it perfectly hits that wall. This is what's causing the collisions to go through the floor and walls. Instead of using a collider on each projectile, I used another imaginary line. I draw a point from the projectile's current position to where it was last frame. If it intersects with something, I move the projectile's position to that intersection point and make the projectile detonate or do damage or whatever. This made the collisions on the fireballs very consistent. If you take a look at Quake, you can also tell this is what they're doing. You can fire really close to corners, which probably means the projectile doesn't have any physical width and it's just using a line. There are a couple other methods that games sometimes use where they just have a visual for the projectile and then the actual projectile is coming from the center. As with any other thing in game development, an ideal solution doesn't really exist. Neither of the mechanics I listed are correct. Just pick which one fits your game and what you have time to implement. This has been Ball Muncher 7. I love you.